Joanne, are we ready? Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. Before we start, we'll just go ahead and call our trust meeting to order. Welcome. Today is Tuesday, May 13, 2025. Happy Haitian Heritage Month. Today is the 13th of May. It is now 6:07. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Just for everyone who is here in the audience, all the constituents, Joanne, our CEO, has prepared some appetizers for anyone in the back. Please help yourselves throughout the course of the meeting. And I'll go ahead and punt it over to you, Joanne.
We'll begin with roll call. Leslie England Dorlands.
Present.
Ashley Toussaint. Alyssa Cepeda. Robert Holland. Absent. Rudy Meme.
Present.
We have quorum to proceed.
Okay. Oh, look at that, a working mic. Any person who acts as a lobbyist pursuant to City of Miami Ordinance Number 11469, codified in Chapter 2, Article 6 of the City Code, must register with the City Clerk prior to engaging in lobbying activities before City staff, boards, committees, and the City Commission. A copy of said ordinance is available in the office of the City Clerk at City Hall. The material for each item on the agenda is available online on the City's website. Any person may be heard by the board through the chair for not more than 2 minutes on any proposition before the board unless modified by the chair. If the proposition is being continued or rescheduled, the opportunity to be heard may be at such later date before the board takes action on such proposition. The chair will advise the public when the public may have the opportunity to address the board during the public comment period or at any other designated time.
Would you like me to, are we going to do the presentation first, Joanne, before roll call? Public comment?
No, we can do public comment.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. If you'd like to come up to the microphone, please state your name, your address, and each person will have up to 2 minutes. First.
Hello. Very good. Carl Bay, 5150 Northwest 2nd Avenue, Miami, Florida, 33127, which is right down the street. I just wanted to bring to the attention of those who were here last month during the meeting. There were several questions asked from the audience. For those who were not here, there were several questions asked from the audience, so I've taken the liberty of typing up those questions. I didn't receive any communication that captured the essence of those questions, so we just took it upon ourselves to type this up. And so what I'd like to do is probably wait until, I don't know if this is the appropriate time or the place, but the questions that are outlined in here, if this is the only opportunity to speak, I'll go to those right now, but if we have an opportunity to hear the presentation first, because it was this evening where the responses to the questions that were raised last month, we were told will be addressed here this evening. So I think I'm going to stop talking and wait till the presentation to take place, and then hopefully open the floor for additional questions so that I'm not jumping the gun or stealing someone's thunder. This is not working. I don't want to drop the
Good evening, Sean Wilt, Magic City Innovation District. Just wanted to put out a quick announcement about our upcoming markets. It's part of our TUP. We've announced it before with the Magic Market and Foodie Village. But 2 weekends from now on May 18th, we're going to have our grand opening. There's some little flyers up here. Sorry, they're small. But anyone that wants to register, be a part of it, be a vendor at the event, please take one of these and spread the word. We obviously want to continue to pull local involvement from the local community and be vendors and bring their small businesses to this venue. And there's live music, there's kids, there's gonna be bounce houses. I think there's a small petting zoo. There's numerous vendors that are gonna be there. It's really gonna be a family-oriented event, so please come out and support the event May 18th between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else for public comment? Okay. Yeah, we're closing public comment. I don't see anybody else. Oh, there was one more. I'm sorry. I heard you in the corner. I'm sorry. I was like, is someone talking? Sorry. Go ahead.
Thanks. All right. Name Mike Hepburn, address 1445 Northwest 14th Terrace. Just wanted to stop by right fast to keep a promise to my mentees. First public comment is just related to Miami Edison seniors or senior high school seniors. One of the questions that I received from them was related to the trust. They were thinking, have you guys thought about maybe providing like a last dollar scholarship for high school seniors graduating from Miami Edison, so they can, in a sense, have a way to reduce their tuition and fees costs if they decide to go off to college or post-secondary education. So I told them I'll stop by to drop that down on public comment. And the second piece was just more related to this concept of 15-minute cities. I believe that is probably part of the presentation today, and I just wanted to say we've been talking about that for about 6 months now. One of the mayors that I link up with that's in Cleveland, Justin Bibbs, definitely been pushing that concept for a while, so it's kind of cool to see the presentation today related to how we can kind of accelerate our urban core centers, build around our neighborhoods to have them be more mobile as far as having access to resources that we need. And then I'm just kind of interested to see the version of 15-minute cities here in Miami, Florida. So that's my two public comments. And I think it clipped, just in case. Here you go.
Last call for public comments. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on, Joanne. If you want to go ahead and move into the presentation.
Yes, the first presentation will be of our audit. And so we have Jerry Lhrt of Tri-Merge Consulting Group that will be doing the presentation.
All right, cool. Good evening, Trust Board, staff, as well as the community. I am Jerry Lhrt with Tri-Merge Consulting Group. We're a CPA firm here in Miami-Dade County. We are the auditor for the trust, and so I'll be presenting our financial report that was recently done on the trust's operations and financial data. Next slide, please. I don't even need this. So, in order to perform the independent audit for the trust, we are supposed to be external auditors. We're supposed to be independent, and we were independent from the process. We issued an audit on the financial statements of the trust. They're responsible for abiding by government auditing standards, and so we verified that they were adhering to those standards. We reviewed their general fund, their community development fund, which is the funding that they receive from the Magic City contract. We also reviewed their internal control procedures to make sure that they're adhering to the rules for financial reporting and other matters. We also reviewed to make sure that they were in compliance with all of the laws and rules that govern within the state of Florida under the Florida statutes. Next slide. We issued what we refer to as an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. It means that everything is well and done. There was no problems that we faced during performance of the audit. The audit was conducted for fiscal year 2024, which ended on September 30th, 2024. We also performed the audit for fiscal year 23 as well, and there was no issues with that audit as well. There were no findings. There were no reportable conditions to note as well. Next slide. So this just kind of gives some numbers, highlight. We issued the report actually on March 28th, so the trust does have the report. I'm pretty sure it's probably on their website, but this is just a synopsis of the report. So the organization ended with total assets of $6,417,111. Please keep in mind, this is as of September 30th, 2024. The numbers definitely would have changed as of today, right? Total liabilities was $78,419 with a net position of $6,338,692. We also showed the results for the previous year, which is pretty much the same. I will say that in 24 they had more activity because they actually started to mobilize. They hired more staff. They were starting to vote on different programs that they wanted to implement. Most of the funding did not get spent in 24. It's actually going to start off in 25, but that's when they actually started mobilizing and having more operations if you look at it compared to 23. 22, you can see there wasn't really a lot of activity, which we'll see on the next slide. So this kind of gives you an idea or breakdown of their revenues. For fiscal 24, they received $249,000 from the city. They also had investments of $351,000 that was allocated by the city. They also, in 23, if you see in comparison, they brought in $199,000 from the city, so there was an increase of about $50,000. Investments actually did better this year versus last year. Obviously, it has to do with the market, but also there's an allocation. It's done by the city, so it depends on how the percentage is allocated, but we don't need to necessarily go in depth in that. Go to the next slide, please. Because they had more operations and expenditures in 2024, they actually had a loss. So the organization did have a loss of about $68,401. That is because they brought in about, hard to see from here, they brought in about $600,785 in total for 24, and their expenses was $668,000. But they actually had a profit in the previous year. So, and all in all, the performance is still doing well. Their net position is over $6 million. Next slide. Some of the matters we did note, it's important to note because the trust is a component unit of the city of Miami. Just means that there's sort of like a little division of the city of Miami. The city of Miami actually manages the cash and a lot of the receivables for the investments. So we just kind of want to highlight that. And also, there was a classification issue with the IRS that they're trying to resolve, which is not a major issue, but it is something that we wanted to highlight. And then we did have some audit adjustments, but the city worked with us to approve them, and we didn't have any problems with it. There were no issues during the audit. We're supposed to highlight whether or not we had issues in the engagement with the staff, and we did not. Everything went well. It was squeaky clean. Next slide. Any questions? To the trust. I know you guys did receive the report back in March 28th. I can entertain any questions that you may have, but that concludes my presentation of the fiscal September 30th, 2024 report on behalf of the Little Haiti Revitalization Trust. Thank you for your time.
Any questions from the board? Okay. So I think we're just going to skip to a portion of the CEO report before the next.
We'll move forward with the presentation by the
Okay.
planning department. So I'm going to invite David Snow to come up to do the presentation.
Okay.
This is a follow-up from the
Understood.
last board meeting.
And I think there is this email with the follow-up questions? Nope.
That item did not come from the trust.
Understood.
okay? Oh, there it is. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Snow. I'm the director of the planning department for the city of Miami. So we do have a presentation tonight to talk about TODs and a future TOD close to this neighborhood. This was actually discussed briefly at the last trust meeting as it relates to the Victory Village or the Victory Housing Development. That's going through the county process, the RFQ process. So this is tied to that. So we're going to go through a little bit more detail with that. So I will turn it over to Ryan Shedd, our Chief of Comprehensive Planning.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As you mentioned, my name is Ryan Shedd. I'm the Chief of Comprehensive Planning. I'm also joined by my colleagues in our division, Catherine Engleton and Gabrielle Suarez, we've all spent some time working on this. As David mentioned, I'm the Chief of Comprehensive Planning, so our presentation is going to focus on that specific portion of this planning component, where we're really looking at the future planning in the area around the proposed train station, aligned with the redevelopment of the public housing in the area. As a caveat, we had a little internal miscommunication, so the presentation's a little bit different than I had thought it was going to be, so I apologize in advance if I trip over my own words or any of the slides, but I will do my best, I promise. Next slide, please. So we have a little bit of an agenda here. We're going to go through first kind of some of the fundamental aspects of transit-oriented development, the groundwork that we're building on top of that was laid over the last couple years through a process that we went through for our comprehensive plan. Then we're going to get more specific into what we're proposing today in terms of those changes to the comprehensive plan for the TOD, for the transit-oriented development. Then we have the Miami 21 update. I'm going to pass that back to David at that point because he and our colleague Savan Steiner have been working intensely on that portion, which is a companion to what I'm going to cover here in the beginning. Finally, we're going to talk about the future of the program. We're looking at this in terms of its connection to this project, but also citywide impacts. And then finally, do we need to cover the RTC stuff? I don't think so. We'll skip over that part. Okay. So number 6, we'll skip over. That's not necessarily pertinent for this group. So next slide, please. Okay, so you're going to hear the phrase TOD a lot. That's the acronym for Transit-Oriented Development. The transit-oriented development is the area within a half mile around premium transit facilities, essentially. So nowadays in Miami, that's going to look like any existing Metro Rail stations, any Tri-Rail stations. The Bright Line is our newest premium dedicated rail infrastructure in the city of Miami. Obviously, that's in an area that already has plenty with the Metro Mover, Metro Rail, and so forth. But the idea is the TOD is a planning tool to look at the area within a half mile around that train station and what services, amenities, and land uses are supportive of the communities in terms of providing housing, economic opportunities, multi-mobility. So first and foremost, having opportunities for people to live close to the train station, which is tied in then to the multi-mobility so that we're servicing folks who want to use different types of transportation. They don't just want to drive everywhere in a car. They may not have a car. They might want to walk. They might want to bike. They might rely on different types of other types of transit services like buses or paratransit. So folks who might not be able to use other modes of transportation. And so part of that is it's all tied in through this station area planning where we look at land uses, providing that housing, but also providing the infrastructure that the people living in the housing need in order to be able to thrive, move around, get to work, visit family, visit friends, and so on. Next slide. So we have a couple examples, some close, some far. The first one's relatively close. It's a new example in West Palm Beach. They're their Brightline station, and there's a bunch of these coming up as Brightline is expanding along the whole corridor. But this one's in downtown West Palm Beach, as we've seen the Brightline station here, there in downtown West Palm Beach, as they've developed housing, office, and retail in close proximity to the station. And I mentioned before some of that infrastructure, and it's a really important detail to mention the connection for people who live in the community, who might be visiting the community, and that infrastructure being sidewalks, crosswalks. It sounds very basic, but it's something that makes project in an area completely different compared to just the bare minimum, right? So increasing capacity, increasing facilities in terms of quality, size, and reach, right? So really reaching as far out as possible in terms of that infrastructure impact. Next slide. Another example, it's pretty pictures, but this is in Los Angeles, again, on an expanding transit line north of downtown Los Angeles, looking at opportunities for expanded housing, office, retail, and non-car infrastructure directly adjacent to that station. Next slide, please. And then, so we've heard 15-minute cities mentioned tonight already, which is awesome. And that kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier in terms of providing access for everybody, right? So providing those choices. And I'll say this in the beginning, none of this is to say that anybody's trying to take away anybody's car or their choice to drive places and park. It's more about flipping it so that anybody who may not be driving or who may not want to drive has the opportunity and to get around, be modal, but do it in a way that's safe and as convenient, right? The idea being that if you're not in a car, you're not driving, you're not at a disadvantage to anybody else. You're able to use transit, you're able to walk, bike, and other. So the 15-minute city concept is the idea where communities are becoming more, we'll say, self-sufficient in terms of access, right? Access to jobs, access to entertainment and food, shopping, and so forth, so that you can meet your needs as an individual within 15 minutes. So within 15 minutes, you're taking a few minutes walk, you're biking, sometimes driving, for instance, hopefully in an electric vehicle. And obviously that's gonna get you different distances based on the mode that you're using. But the idea being that the center of that, in this case, a train station, the center of that 15-minute city, we're building supportive land uses that allow those communities to not have to go to another community to access their needs, right? So if you live in one place, you don't have to go to another community to access all the food that you need, the daycare, the schools, the jobs, and so forth. And so this diagram is really just a way to express the idea of the multimodal aspect, so that, based on the mode that you're using, you might reach different areas, but those essential functions being reachable within 15 minutes of that place, depending on, regardless of what type of transportation you're using. Next slide, please. So we're building off of some work that was started back in 2023 when we did an overhaul of our comprehensive plan. Now, I'm not gonna go into too much detail because it gets really boring. Oh, okay, we're okay. So our comprehensive plan is sort of like the blueprint framework for the city that all of our other work gets built on top of. So a lot of people have heard of our zoning code, our historic preservation code, other things. The comprehensive plan is a thing that underlies all of that, where we say, this is our community and this is how we want it to grow, and this is how we're gonna make sure that it grows in a way that we can provide those services to the residents, to employees, to businesses, and so forth. And so every 7 years we look at the plan, we go across the city, we have conversations about what's working in the plan, what's not working in the plan, what do we wanna expand on, what's not applicable anymore, do we need to take anything out? And the plan covers everything from land use, transportation, education, housing, green space, and recreation. So it touches on every aspect of our life that's affected by growth in the city. And so in 2023, we met with communities across the city to have those conversations. And as we hear all the time, transportation and housing are two of the most important aspects of everybody's daily life, right? And so that's always an important conversation that we have whenever we do this exercise. And so in 2023, we had a lot of these conversations with people who were looking for different options and so forth in terms of how they get around, where they live, and so forth. And so what that looked like was a couple new policies that just sort of introduced the idea of transit-oriented development planning into our comprehensive plan that we didn't have any before. Sort of the groundwork, basic language, just sort of describing exactly what I went through in the beginning of my presentation. So I won't bore you with the verbatim here. But it set the groundwork for kind of where we're at today. Next slide, please. So in line with the work that David mentioned in the county's partnership in redeveloping the housing sites around the 71st Street corridor area, we took a look at the future land use being how we're visioning out the next 30, 40 years versus the zoning, which is much more immediate, right? So I'm gonna talk about that future aspect. I'm gonna let David touch a little bit more on the zoning side, which is gonna be a little bit more immediate. But the future planning part is where we're really looking at what types of housing and how much and scale, right? How do we make that work? And one thing that we looked at was with the train station coming into the area, that's an opportunity to provide more housing where people are looking for options and opportunities. And this is obviously coinciding with a project where the county is looking to really expand on its land there in terms of providing housing for the folks that are already there and might also want to move in. And so in order to accomplish that, we looked at what we have elsewhere in the city. So obviously this is not, this is the area around the train tracks up along 71st Street. This is not downtown Miami. It's very different. But with the new train station, there's an opportunity to look at what we might be able to put there in terms of providing that housing, jobs, recreation, and so forth. And so we've prepared this framework. We've called them transit-oriented development nodes as part of our future land use map. Now, in order to accomplish this, we went through a process of doing this planning and putting together this proposed, it's a new future land use designation that's different than what we have before. And so I know it's hard to read the screen right now, and it's some of those numbers up there are big. They do not apply, though, to what we're proposing for the area, right? But this is something that we're looking to, address across the entire city. So we wanted to try and start that framework today using this exercise. So I just want to mention that ahead of time. It's like I said, most of you probably won't be able to read the screen, but it says 500 dwelling units per acre. In this instance, that's not applicable here. So let me just get ahead of that. We're not looking at dumping, something like that you would find in downtown Miami in Little Haiti, right? And so what we're looking at is a sort of tiered structure where close to the station you have higher densities. Close to the station you have the larger buildings. The further away from the station, the smaller the buildings get, the less the units get, right? And the same goes for its relation to the urban core, right? So if you have a new train station that's far out from the urban core, the idea is that you're not creating a new downtown, right? You are creating additional housing and opportunities, but you're not doing it in a way that is indistinguishable from downtown Miami where you have 80-story skyscrapers, right? And so that's the sort of framework that we created so that when we do go to places like downtown Miami, we have the opportunity to go through the same exercise. So the framework is there, but that's just to say that every community is different, so we wanted to create it broad in the beginning, and then as we work through these new TOD efforts in different places, we'll be able to tailor it to the character of each neighborhood, right? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm gonna pass it to David for a second. He's gonna touch on the Miami 21.
All right. So yeah, I'll unpack a little bit about what the Miami 21 amendment entails. So essentially, this is the second part of this new process, if you will, for TODs. So the first part establishes the the general land use for the area, which is appropriate for TOD or 15-minute cities. This establishes the zoning and the development regulations. So how tall the buildings are, how wide the buildings are, where you can park, all of that. So this is a new process that we will define in our zoning ordinance. It's, we have various tools today in the city of Miami. We have the special area plan process, which is what Magic City went through. We have neighborhood revitalization districts, which is similar to Wynwood or Wynwood Norte. So this is a new process specifically for the TOD areas, 15-minute city areas. So there will be two parts of this process. So the first one will be the general district, which is I'd say more of an administrative process that allows that development within those areas to go through a warrant administrative permit to seek various flexibilities. So those flexibilities would allow a zone that would be T4, T5, T6, or D1 within these nodes, as Ryan just walked through, to get additional development capacity similar to T612. Okay, so that is an additional scale that is from the zones 4, 5, 6, and D1. So that's an important point. Today, someone would have to go through a rezone process in order to seek that. So this actually does, the intent of this is to help streamline development within the right areas of the city, i.e. the 15-minute TOD areas. With the specific public benefits associated with it, and I'm going to get into a little bit more detail of that. And in this particular instance, the requirement is for mobility connections and enhancements, that being everything from streetscape improvements to bike lanes, those type of things that connect directly to that station, that future station. And then there is an affordable housing minimum standard of 10% of those units that are being developed to be affordable. We can go to the next slide. So this is the other vehicle that you could choose, which is the enhanced. So we have the general and then we have the enhanced. This process would be more of a public hearing process through an exception. There are minimum requirements, so the proposed development would have to go through a master plan. That master plan would have to be reviewed by the city and approved by PZAB. Traffic study is required. There is a minimum size of 40,000 square feet. So these are much larger scale developments within these areas. And of course, the master planning, or the public benefit package is much more extensive as well. We can go to the next slide. And it's important for me to note that we have mentioned the Victory Village housing development that is part of this. They have their own stipulated public benefit package that the county has outlined. We went through that, I think, at the last meeting. So that actually does go above and beyond what these benefits would be. So they're a little bit different than this. But in any essence, this one does require that either a station be constructed or improved and enhanced. So this is good because we have other parts of the city that have stations that have existed for some time, the Metro Rail stations. If we have developments occurring, the developer can contribute and enhance those spaces to make them much more pleasant and enjoyable to use. We talked about the mobility connections. That's obviously part of this. This requires a 20% affordable housing contribution for the units developed. Landscape enhancements that go above and beyond our regular requirements. Open space and park improvements, that is also required. We talked about workforce development, small business support. I think we heard a little bit about that at the last meeting, the need for small business support in this community. So this is an opportunity for future development to look at ways to do that. One thing that we are looking to have in this program is to have a percentage of either small business incubator or micro retail. We're seeing micro retail is small retail. It's retail that's shops that are roughly 800 square feet in size, so maybe a little bit bigger than that. But what's great about micro retail that we've seen in Wynwood Norte is that those spaces are fairly inexpensive for a developer to build, and they can be quickly activated. So a small business, someone that's not looking to dump a lot of money into a space, those spaces could be quickly activated. It's a real good support for the small business community. And we're seeing tremendous success in Wynwood Norte with those. So we're excited about that. And then in addition to these benefits that, again, are required, the developer would need to select one of the following additional enhancements, whether that's contribution to historic preservation. There's green building standards, brownfield redevelopment, or donation of a civic space type or civic support use. Civic support use is a civics facility, so that could be a community center, it could be a fire station, a police station. And I think we also are looking at educational programming as well. So that's everything from a daycare to a school of from kindergarten to 12th grade. We can go to the next slide. All right, so this is the other component. So yeah, so now I mentioned that the warrant process allows up to T612. This would allow up to T624. So this is a much higher zone, but again, they can only be sought through satisfying the public benefit contributions, as well as going through the master plan and the public PZAB public hearing process. We can go to the next slide. Ryan, you want to pick this up? Okay.
Thank you. So I mentioned earlier about the future of the program, and this is generally what I was referencing in terms of how the structure would be used across the city, where we're building out a larger structure that would then get specified and planned specifically for each community differently, and not just dropped in the same way everywhere we go. So on the screen is a map of the city of Miami with existing and proposed premium transit facilities. So you can see the Metro Rail existing stations are there. Again, it's kind of tough to see far away, but the existing transit stations, the Metro Rail stations are there. But then we have, as the county is developing its northeast corridor throughout the city as part of its SMART plan, we've identified those areas that would be affected by the new facilities planned for and built by the county in Wynwood Design District, Little Haiti, and now as part of this development with county housing, the new station in Little Haiti along the Little River rail corridor. So that's what we've identified there. The idea being that in the future, we'd be able to use this exercise to address the needs in each of the individual places as they need. And next slide. Okay, so this gets into the specifics of this case, right? So on the left-hand side, both of these show the future land use map that's part of our comprehensive plan. So again, this map is showing the designated future land uses for each of the properties across the entire city. The idea being this is what could be built and envisioned in the area on that property going ahead 30, 40 years, where then the zoning code comes in and implements that. And it gets into the specifics of what does the building look like and how far back from the street does it have to be set and so forth. So on the left-hand side is the existing future land use map. And we can, I'm happy to take down, provide my email, take other people's emails, so you can get copies of these images to look at home, and share with others so you can examine them more closely, because I know it's difficult to see here. But again, so left-hand side is the existing, where the majority of the properties between 75th Street on the north and 71st Street on the south, really hugging the train tracks there, right? So, and I think it's Victory Homes is the one on the east side, I believe, correct? Or yeah, and then yes. So they kind of bookend the site, right, that we're looking at. And so 95 is there on the west, and then the main trunk of the rails is there on the east side. So we've really looked at that. It's kind of makes like a little bit of a rectangle, and that's the area that we're looking at. One of the things that we were cognizant of from the beginning was we have single-family neighborhoods immediately to the south and to the north. So we wanted to look at, obviously we didn't want to touch any of those places. We're not looking at, redeveloping any single-family neighborhoods. That is a particular unique character in the city of Miami, where, we're not looking at, addressing anything there now other than providing uses in the area that is affected that, folks would be able to walk to, bike to, drive to easily. And so predominantly the area is made up of, right now, light industrial and sort of a medium density of housing. The existing Miami-Dade County housing sites are either medium density or light industrial. So there's driving through the area, obviously anybody who knows it, you see, the mix of those light industrial uses, small apartment buildings in some cases, a couple larger apartment buildings, but mostly in that scale. And so with the proposed train station being further to the west, closer to 95, we were looking at that area with the two lower tiers that we had identified. So on that graph earlier, you saw there was those four sort of towers showing the scale. We're looking at really the lower end of that, since we're relatively far away from downtown Miami. We're not trying to create a new urban core. So next to this train station, including the county housing site, we're looking at a little bit more density at 250 dwelling units an acre. But then as you get away, it steps down to 150 dwelling units an acre. And so it's kind of hard to see, but where you see red on the map as well, that's similar to that. Any of the pale red or bright red, those are existing 150 dwelling units an acre. The difference being that these properties are being identified for opportunities to do station area planning in connection with one another, so that as we're looking at mobility options, it's all tied together. Next slide. Oh, that's the last one. Okay. I'm trying to think if there were a couple notes I wanted to make. But again, I'm happy to provide my email address. We can share our contact information, as well as take anybody else's, and we can share PowerPoint presentations. We have I wasn't sure that those images were going to be in this version of the PowerPoint, so I'm glad they were. But again, we can share them with everybody, so you can look at them more closely yourselves. And then I saw that one of the questions that had been discussed last meeting was there was a question about impacts. Which is really important to this process. And part of that is going to be looking at doing a traffic study for the entire affected area. One of the things we have to do, we have to work closely with the Florida Department of Transportation. They have a lot of questions about I-95. So what we want to do is build all that together to say, what do those impacts look like? And what are the opportunities that are going to be provided across the whole area? So I think I don't know the depth of the presentation that was given before by the folks from the county and the groups working, but I know that there's efforts at looking at a multi-mobility network across the entire site. And then part of the research that's going to be done before any of this really gets into action is going to be looking at those transportation impacts. And of course, that's going to be a balance, right? Because if there's a new train station, people are going to be using the train station, people are going to be able to walk more, there's going to be more services close by, but there's going to be more people there, right? So that's going to be an impact. So that's one of the things that that traffic study is going to look at, is all of those impacts, how they're tied together, and the new opportunities. So that's going to be coming shortly. I don't know the exact timeline on that, but we can figure that out. But yeah, we're on Q&A, so I don't want to. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not my committee. Let me.
Questions from the board? Of course.
Good evening. I did have a couple questions, and when the developer group was here in the last meeting, and one of them was regarding I-95, and I had the opportunity. I've met you before, Mr. Shed, and I think it's this thing. And there's some other large projects that are planned in the area, up and down the Northwest 7th Avenue corridor, Magic City, all of these, things that are kind of in the hopper. And it is of great concern to all of us in this area, whether it's, Liberty City, Little Haiti, the Upper East Side. The traffic is unbearable. A lot of evenings trying to get home. We're all sharing one exit off of 62nd Street is kind of the main hub. And that's something that is of great interest, whether there is going to be a possible another opening at 54th Street or doing something to prioritize here 79th Street and not doing this loop-de-loo to 82nd to get on and all of the craziness that you need to do to access I-95 a little farther north up here. So that is something that I would like to, continue to see be developed. And if I have an opportunity, I'd like to participate in that because we're struggling up here in the north end of town with the traffic. So that's something that is of great interest. We here in the trust have been working very diligently for quite some time now with FIU and some other consultants on a master plan for what is in the Little Haiti boundaries and what is the purview of the trust. And we are actually developing some guidelines and would like to see some preservation of the different characteristics, what makes Little Haiti, and all of those things. And I would like to see, there are some developer suggested contributions up here to Art and Public Places or the Historic Preservation Trust Fund, but I would like to see if maybe we could have it come, and be used here in Little Haiti. Maybe it'd be a donation given to the trust, for example, and that we incentivize using these newly formed suggested guidelines that we're still working on. We have not even finalized them yet, and maybe in some of the ground floor buildings, or especially things here that are closer to Northeast 2nd Avenue, that we, use the right colors, use some different architecture, and, still try to have a little bit of, identifiable markers, to retain the character of Little Haiti. So that's something that is very near and dear to us. We've worked really hard, and, these are kind of things that have been dropped in our lap, and, we want to make sure that there's something here that when people drive through this area, they still recognize Little Haiti. So if we could, make sure that our guidelines are brought into the conversation, I think that's really important to preserve that. Historic preservation is wonderful, and I'm, a huge cheerleader for that as well. But this is something that is, really, really important at this point to preserve here, the characteristics of Little Haiti. And then I'm, trying to understand here. I have a good handle on, T4, T5, Miami 21, all of that. I'm still not sure what would be the overall height kind of down at the end around I-95, where you're talking about that you're gonna, have the bulk of the density around the train station, and that is where the Victory Homes are there. What are we looking at? Because is this going to be 25 stories? This is going to be 10, 12 stories? Because I'm okay with density, but, when we start putting up these high buildings, it really changes the character of the neighborhood. And there is nothing like that up here now. Density in housing is one thing, but when you start the conversation and, you're over 10, 12 stories and you start up in 20, 25, 28 stories, that's something that, is really a game changer. So, and then my last question, my last concern is, we are bringing in train stations. This is something that is amazing. Creates another form of, being able to travel, if it's up to West Palm Beach or to Orlando or all of these different places. The only thing I'm hearing in your presentation is it's for people who are living around them. So there was a slide in here there was a portion on one of the slides, in your presentation talking about reducing parking again. So we reduce parking for the developer, but where are all of the day trippers or the commuters or all of the people that are coming from the roads or coming from Homestead that want to ride up to Orlando, you know, and maybe this is a more convenient place. Instead of going into downtown and rush hour traffic, they keep going on I-95. Where do they park? Or if they're coming from, you know, maybe North Miami, you know, and they want to hop on Tri-Rail or they want to get on Brightline, I'm very concerned about reducing the parking because this isn't just for the people who are, you know, in the 5 miles or in, you know, the 15 minutes or, you know, they can walk or whatever. I would like to make sure that there is adequate parking for all of the uses, whether it's retail, whether it's the people coming to use the train, all of those different things. Before we start reducing parking, having that conversation, we're not overparked. We have no city garages up here. We thought it was a good idea in the Upper East Side to do adaptive reuse and reduce parking and do all of this, and now we've really shot ourselves in the foot. So before we consider that and we go significantly reducing parking for transit-oriented development, I think that we should have a larger conversation for all that is on the table, because this is massive. This is like over 70 acres, from what I understand. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Should I respond each time? For each member, okay. So I'm gonna address the first couple and then punt a couple to my colleague. But the first one, I think, was the design guidelines, right? I-95, then design guidelines. Yeah. Okay. So the first part is cool because we're working in tandem, sort of like at the same time as the development group is working with the county to look at their sites. So a lot of people are looking at the traffic, and so we're doing our own exercise as well. The group that's looking at the county sites, they're doing their own exercise, and it's going to be encompassing the entirety of the properties that was shown on the map. The city is also working to procure a consultant to look at the larger context, and that hasn't been solidified yet. So you make a really good point, and we can bring that back to our colleagues in Resilience and Public Works to. Right, yeah. So she's just reminding me that, like I mentioned earlier, how we work closely with FDOT through this process. Because this is such a large project, we're gonna have to work with the state. They review everything. FDOT is part of that review process. And so as we develop all of our analyses, that is gonna be part of the review. And so we'll take into account, obviously, you know, feedback from the community, feedback from FDOT if they say, you know, look, we need to see more infrastructure for 95. And then, of course, part of that is going to be, you know, hearing from communities like, you know, we've got a lot of these projects coming in, and we need to take that into account as well. So that's where our analysis is going to be able to take into a little bit more into account. So you make a really good point there. The design guidelines is really cool. Working with FIU, that's really neat. I'll make a quick plug because Catherine, Gabby, and myself are working on developing a neighborhood planning program, which the city hasn't had in a really long time. And that is like one of the first and foremost aspects of that. Obviously housing, transportation, all this other stuff, but character and design is really, really important to, you know, the cohesiveness. Not necessarily, obviously community members know your community, but, you know, it's oftentimes where communicating you know, that to
Identifying
outside.
your sense of place.
Yeah, identifying your sense of
People
place and
understand there's somewhere special.
people from the outside understanding that, right?
Correct.
And knowing you're not coming into a blank slate. You're coming into a place where people already live and there is character. And so, you know, it might be, you know, I think that might be an interesting way to look at our Miami 21 legislation in ways to like identify if a neighborhood has, you know, design guidelines and character guidelines and so forth. Those are things that we can take into consideration from the beginning of the planning process so that it's built into it, right? So as you know, development projects come in and they have proposals, then we have something to say, well, we need to start with, you know, XYZ because this community's already done a lot of this work. So that was a great point. And then what was the third part?
Height and parking.
Height and parking. So I'm gonna punt over to David now.
The easy one.
My favorite.
Right, and so height and parking. So, and this is also tied to Ryan's point that he made about the design guideline opportunities. You know, future development within these areas can only be done, well, certain heights can only be achieved through the master plan process, right? And that master plan has to be approved through a public hearing process, which is PZAB. And what's great about that is that through that master plan process, you can assure that you know, those placemaking opportunities, that the height that's being proposed is appropriate for that particular area, generally speaking. Now, talking a little bit more specific about this project, again, this is today we're just kind of talking about the different mechanisms that are being looked at to allow for this. But the future project could be developed under a T6 240. All right, so to give an idea of what that is, that's like Midtown, right? So those type of style, those heights of building, that's what would be done around here. Now, of course, that's predicated on a future train station and the development around that train station to support that transit activity. So again, you know, that's important to for the success of the future transit. And then yes, we would look to have the development scale as you go further away from the station. Those buildings scale down, right? So your taller buildings are going to be closest to the station, which is closest to the 95. And then it would scale down into the neighborhoods. And then as far as parking goes, so, you know, when development typically comes into a transit area, you want them to get the benefits of the proximity to transit, right? So, you know, the users of the building are taking the train, they're taking, you know, other mobility options to get to that location. And so the cost of building parking is reduced on that development. That being said, I hear you loud and clear about rideshare opportunities, 100%. This area should look at ways that people from the outside that might be commuting or might be, you know, maybe they're gonna come here to take the train up to West Palm. You know, that could be an opportunity. So through the master plan process that this is creating, we could be looking at rideshare opportunities.
Catherine Angleton with the Planning Department. I've done a lot of work on this and a lot of research. One of the things that we do with neighborhood planning and things like this is we look at demographics and socioeconomics. And in this area that we're proposing currently, 1/3 of households actually don't have a car right now. So that's kind of helpful with the fact that we do want to allow for reduced parking for the residential, just because that's not insignificant. If you were to look at that number citywide, I think it's less than 10% of households citywide don't have a car. So it's obviously a greater concentration in this area. So I just wanted to kind of point that out.
We do not have, though, any other forms of transportation. We don't even have good trolley service from the city, and there is no last mile transportation. I live approximately 3 miles from this proposed train station and have no other way to get there besides Uber or Lyft or paying for a ride. So we have unique challenges where a lot of people maybe can't afford a car, don't want a car here,
Right.
but we don't have any other.
I know.
It's like
I know, and the train will help a little bit, obviously. Ryan and myself, we were at the RAD meeting that the county had near St. Mary's, and the developer had spoken to providing first last mile solutions on site. I think they said that was going to be free. I'm pretty sure they said for people that need to get around, because the fact that you need to plan for everybody. It needs to be accessible.
Exactly.
Not everybody can walk even a half a mile. There are disabled people out there, people who are older or frail, and especially with the heat in Florida, it's very hard. So I do know that was something that was discussed at that RAD meeting, and it's something that we'll probably also pick up on with them, make sure that that is still included, while we're doing more of the planning and going forward.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. I don't know how that works. Sorry.
So I think we're moving into legislative items.
I wanted to go into the home rehab presentation, if I may. So it's at the back of the CEO report.
Of course.
So I just wanted, we actually have our first home rehab home that has been completed, and we have the residents that are here. So Lhrt, Daniel, and Roseline LaRose are here. And we're gonna go through some photos so we can show you the home and the work that's been done to the home. So it's actually down a few blocks away from here. The address is 254 Northeast 55th Street. So it's right off 2nd Avenue and 55th Street. Next slide. So I'm gonna ask them to stand, Lhrt Daniel and Roseline Laos, longtime residents of Little Haiti. And there are our first completed home rehab recipients. Congratulations. And we're going to show, I'm gonna allow them to speak, but I'm just gonna go really quickly through the homes. If we can go to the next slide. So this was actually an exception that the board approved. They did qualify for $100,000 through the city of Miami for their home rehab program, but the home was such in disrepair that they needed an additional $62,000 from Little Haiti Trust in order to be able to do additional work to the home to make it habitable for them. So through the funding that we provided to them, they were able to install individual AC units, deal with the termite work, do electrical work, replace windows, and the exterior doors. And so that was the additional $62,000 in which we did provide. Next slide. So we're gonna show some images of the way that the home looked. And you can see things as far as the kitchen is concerned, some of the rooms inside the house. They also had plumbing that was done as well. Next slide. So this is the ceilings. As you can see, there was an extreme leak in the roof. And these were the conditions in which right before the project started. So this is the way that they were living inside of the home. Next slide. These are additional pictures. Next slide. So that you can see, next slide. Some more. We can go to the unveiling now. So this is what the home looks like. We actually visited it last week. So this is the outside in which you can see the new windows and doors that were put in. There's a picture of the AC. So they can't have AC because of the flat, low roof. So they can't have a central AC unit. So they were, there's individual, I believe, 3 AC units that were put into the space. This is the kitchen and what it looks like inside, completely remodeled. Next slide. This is the pictures of the living room where you can see it's absolutely beautiful. So it practically looks like a new home. They also redid the bathrooms. Next slide, and we can show, I think it's the bathrooms. This is still outside the interior. And then these are the complete bathrooms, because this is a 2-1 and then a smaller room that was done as well. And I think there's just one more slide. And that's it. So I wanted to give them the opportunity. They did come all the way here. I don't know if their daughter's here. Tifiula? Yeah. Pujab. So they've been living with her, and so between both of them, I think, have been calling us, asking what's going on with the home, because I think they want to move out and leave each other alone, even though I know there's much love. So I just wanted to give them the opportunity to say thank you to the board.
Alors, m'a dit merci à City Miami. M'a dit merci à tout le monde qui travaille dans ce site. Parce que moi-même, Kaila, moi, saute faire une opération dans nez, il te gen mode, manqué mourir. M'ka dit après bon Dieu, c'est grâce à City Miami qui fait Koulia m'a entré dans une maison qui veut dire m'a senti moqué parce que m'pas malade encore et puis avec grand messi petite moi qui campé avec m'pas t'a qui ça pour me fait et m'pas t'a ka joindre l'argent pour me ranger Kaila en gui pour me ranger Kaila pour yo te ka mettre me dehors dans côté mien yo bam $600,000 pour me quitter pour me vendre yo. Moi dit que m'pas acheter pour me vendre m'a acheté m'a mourir m'a quitter pour 5 petites moi gagné moi pas vendre égal si m'ka mandé l'état aide parce que m'pas ka travailler encore mari pas les yeux li faut opération le pas ouais m'a dit si a merci on seul bagay ti problème moi gagne pas dehors pour en dans kay la Jean dans kay la belle là mais moi dehors on ti Jean l'aide avec la cour m'ta demandé est-ce que yo ka aider toujours comme yo commencé pour yo capable aider pour me faire parce que si nous ouais kay la konya son kay qui vaut konya même si yo ta m'pa konn combien cop yo ta moi pour m'ta vendre mais si nous arrivons dehors, pour nous aider dehors, li pas bon.
So just to kind of translate really quickly, she just said that she was living in the home. The home had extreme mold. She had to have surgery. And she's thankful to the city and the trust for being able to invest the monies into the home. She was actually offered $600,000 to sell her home, but she refused because she wanted to keep the home to pass down to her 5 kids. And that she's also now she's asking for additional funding to be able to fix the outside of the home, like the stucco, the paint. They actually have a garage that is detached from the home, like right next to the home, and that still has mold in it. So they will be submitting a request in the future to see whether or not they can receive additional funds from the trust in order to address those issues. Any questions regarding home rehab?
Oh, I just want to say congratulations. Congratulations. I've sat on this board for the last 2.5 years, and it brings tears to my eyes because for the first time, we see what the trust is doing. So it is our pleasure to help you because we've seen the work that has been done to really come to fruition. We have sat on these meetings for years and months, and we have never really seen it happen. So we thank you allowing us the privilege to help you and get your house in order. Congratulations. Joanne, job well done to you and the staff.
Very much. I'm also going to ask if we can do a group photo with the board members and pour un photo avec eux, s'il te plaît.
And through the chair, I
Yeah.
want to say something. This is one of my former students that I taught.
Wow.
So it's happy to be able to be her teacher and now help her family, you know. So full circle
Awesome.
moment for
Full
me, so that's
circle.
amazing.
Amazing.
If the board members can come right in front of the table and we'll take a quick photo. We should have had a big check with the $62,000. We can now move to legislative items, and I'll come back to the CEO report, please.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the first item is the minutes.
So the first item is approval of the minutes from April 8, 2025. All those in favor? Oh,
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Melissa? Huh?
All in favor? Because
Okay, yes. Next legislative item is an absence waiver.
we can request an action waiver for Robert Holland.
A motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And then 4C, Resolution 2025-006, Little Haiti Revitalization Trust, fiscal year 25-26 budget.
Yeah, so the budget for the upcoming fiscal year was presented at the last board meeting. We have made some updates, but it is still for the next fiscal year that would begin in October. One of the updates that we did was that there was a carryover of the 2.5 million, which is of all of the dollars that have been put aside for the programs, but due to us expending the dollars between the small business grant and also from the home rehab portion, that we had 2 homes that had funds allocated, there was a reduction in that aid to private organizations by $350,000, $290 for the small business grant, and $60K for the home rehab grant that's already been completed for this year. In addition, there were additional line items in which budgets were increased based on expenditures that we see that we're currently in line with for this current year. However, the total dollar amount of the budget remains the same at the $6.8 million. We did also increase our reserve amount from by $620,000 from 3.3 to 3.9. So adding an additional reserve, but keeping our budget at the 6.8. Are there any questions? I'm sorry, Liz, I can't hear you.
Sorry, it wasn't on. There we
Okay.
go. I apologize. So in Exhibit B, I'd like to bring up something for discussion
Sure.
and possible addition, if that's okay with you, Chair.
Let's proceed.
There's 6 activities that are included in the, I guess we'll call it the master plan for the upcoming year. And even though educational programming is mentioned, I'd like to add a number 7 for job training, and specifically construction-related trades and technology, actual job training, so that people from here in Little Haiti can be able to access the jobs that are coming with all of the things that we're hearing and all of the different projects that have been brought to us.
Yeah, I was just gonna respond and say that I would consider any job training that the trust does would be included in that educational programming. And that's something that we have currently and we're still working on is the job training programs. Over the last week, I have met with Florida Memorial University, whose programming in regards to those trades had stopped because their funding was cut. And I also met with Gang Alternatives because they also have a construction jobs training. So I am pretty confident that we will be able within the next 2 to 3 months be able to launch that program. And as far as dollars amount for that program. We do have another line item that I believe has a line item of $100,000 where we would be able to fund that initiative.
I'm okay with maybe combining it with number 6 then, but if there could be specific language just referencing the job training and construction-related trades and technology, it would make me feel a little bit better. If I disappear or, there's a leadership change, board change, all of our terms are limited. If some specific job training language could be added to either of the items, number 6 or the one that Ms. Millard mentioned, I'm perfectly okay with that, but I would like to make sure that we, have that specifically spelled out because I think it's really important.
We'll go ahead and make that change to that item.
Thank you.
So I just for a second, I gotta play parliamentarian, right? Because we have to present this to the city commission and the clerk and everything. So if board member Zapata is gonna, if board member Zapata is gonna amend something on this ordinance, if we could just do it within the parliamentary rules. So she would propose it. It would get a motion in a second, right? And then that you vote on the amendment. And then once you do that, you then vote on the item as amended, and that way we can make the change and present it to the city, and it's all within the minutes.
Mr. Attorney, would you then want me to make a motion? Or how?
Yeah, you would motion and proffer the amendment, and then someone seconds it for discussion.
Okay.
You pass it in a vote, and then you take up the item as a whole as amended.
Chair, would you be okay with that?
I think we should do it while we're all here.
Okay, thank you. So for Exhibit B, in number 6, I motion to add to number 6 educational programming and job training related to construction, trades, and technology.
Is that your proposal or your motion?
My motion.
Okay, I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
We do need to do another vote as amended.
I make a motion to vote on Resolution 4C as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item passes, sorry. Sorry, I caught myself.
So are we going to move into the CEO?
Of course,
report?
yep.
And I'll try to go as quickly as I can. The first update is that I just wanted to provide that Rosemine Lhrt is no longer with us as a special projects coordinator. We now have a new person. Her name is Tracy Pippins, and she will be starting full-time with us in June. For Haitian Heritage Month, we are providing flags with the information of the trust for free in honors of Haitian Heritage Month. And we have received and reviewed over 21 applications to provide over $137,000 to 21 organizations who are doing events during Haitian Heritage Month. We reviewed the applications on behalf of Chairwoman King's office, who is providing the funding for that. So we've gone through all the applications, all the organizations have been notified, and as the organizations are doing their applications, they've also been provided with instructions on how they can receive the reimbursement. But in total, I believe the allocation is $137,000. So by next month, we'll provide an update of how many have provided their information for the reimbursement moving forward. Just some events that we've participated in as an organization is the Little Haiti Book Festival, in which we were on a panel for the future of Little Haiti. We started our financial literacy series last week. We have 14 participants, which is the maximum that the series allows. It is being conducted by Catholic Charities. They did their first session in person here last week, and they're doing 3 sessions online, and then there'll be a graduation on June 3rd, and for those participants that are attending this program. Last Wednesday was our first Wednesday of the month open house series. We had an event that focused on the mental health and child abuse awareness. And so that's a picture of the speakers who presented from Citrus and also from, well, actually not from DCF, but from Citrus. We had the speakers. We had a speaker of Haitian Lawyers Association as well. They focused on trauma, child abuse, domestic violence, and how that impacts mental health. June is actual National Home Ownership Month, so our goal is to be able to launch our down payment assistance program and have the event focused around that for our first Wednesday, which will be June 4th. Upcoming events, we will be celebrating the 9th birthday of Little Haiti on May 25th at 12 p.m. with a happy birthday brunch. We are looking to have a panel discussion similar to what we had last year, with also this brunch on May 25th at 12 p.m. here at the Little Haiti Cultural Center. Your next update is the programming updates as far as small business grants, and we'll have recipients at the next board meeting that will be at least 2 that we'll do check presentations for. And then the last item is your financial report with our year-to-date expenses. And that concludes the CEO report.
Any questions from the board? Okay, and we have one discussion item. Ashley?
Through the chair. Good evening, everybody. Ashley Toussaint, Vice Chair, Little Haiti Revitalization Trust. I reached out to Joanne, and I wanted to just have a brief discussion, and it's something I think we can continue to work on, is creating a scholarship opportunity for high school students from the Little Haiti area. It could be a basic criteria to start off and build off, but I'm just gonna share out loud some of the preliminary thoughts that I've had, and I want us to continue to work as a community, as a board, and as executive team to see how we can provide scholarship opportunities for the kids that actually grew up in Little Haiti or go to a school or a high school here in Little Haiti. So I'm proposing, and it doesn't have to be just this amount, but a $100,000 a year allocation each year that could be dispersed in increments of $10,000 for out-of-state and $5,000 for in-state. The demographic is any high school senior who lives in Little Haiti or graduated from one of our Little Haiti high school, which would be either Edison iTech or Miami Edison Senior High School. Basic guidelines could be a 3.0 GPA or higher with community service or internship experience, an essay, or a portfolio presentation. Something that they can go through. We can take candidates, and then that way we make sure that when students are successful, if they go away or they do something local, they know that the Little Haiti Trust and the community was there to help them along the way. I'm a kid who grew up in Miami that left. More opportunities were far away, but I came back home. And I think sometimes if you give the kids a gift before they go away, they'll remember home. But if you make them do it on their own, they'll be like, I don't need to come back home. So I think it's very important that we try to see how we can give the students and the young people that grew up here, because all the stuff that we're watching, you know, the development, the roads, the new jobs, is really going to affect them more than it's going to affect us. So at least give them some buy-in, at least give them some encouragement as they go on through their journey. So that's something that I just want to propose out there, and I hope that in the months to come, that we can put together a item and a budget to honor money that can go to students that grew up here in Little Haiti.
Ashley, is it your intention for this to begin this year because we are in graduation season, or just to prepare for next fiscal year?
I think it'd be too soon for June, but you know, colleges have enrollment every semester, so it doesn't mean it couldn't roll out in January. And rising seniors now, I think, should still be eligible. But I think if it can roll out in the fall or in the winter of 2026, I think any student that is currently in the class for 2025 should be eligible.
Joanne, with the proposed, and I know we don't have a resolution or anything, with the proposed budget that Vice Chair provided, what would be the impact to our overall budget? Because
For the allocation of the additional 100?
yes,
Well, we do have that line item that we just have a general overflow, I would consider it, of the 100,000. It's under all other expenditures. We could increase that line item to 200,000. We might as well vote on that now so that we could move forward on that. So as of right now, we have 100,000 in other expenditures. If you wanted to increase that dollar amount, you wouldn't have to specify that we create another line item for HSA program, but we could use those funds for the scholarship. If you wanted to make that amendment right now, go ahead and vote on it so that we can make all the necessary updates so that we can submit it to commission in time for budget.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're taking questions between business.
No.
Yeah. So I would make a motion to add the additional 100,000 to the funds, to the budget.
So I'll walk through how we
Okay.
do parliamentarian.
Thank you.
So since we just passed it, we'd have to do a vote for reconsideration, right? So we would reopen the item. Once we do that vote, you can then, do your motion to amend the budget. Just be clear and, say the line, we're increasing it by X amount. Vote on that, right? You motion, second, do that vote, and then once again take up the item and vote on it as amended.
so this time around, it's 3 times.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm being very key on it this time around.
So to be clear, a motion to reopen the item and
To reconsider it?
reconsider. And then the second motion to,
Then the second motion after that, once the first passes, the second one would be for the amendment itself. And then the third would be for the item, right, as amended.
all right, let me go for it. All right. So a motion to reconsider the current item.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
A motion to amend the item of additional $100,000.
To the all other expenditures line.
Okay, a motion to amend the item of extra $100,000 to the other items line in our budget.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And a motion to to approve the amended item. Motion to approve the amended item.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item passes.
And if I can make one announcement prior to us adjourning, I just want to acknowledge that last week it was Vice Chair Ashley Toussaint's birthday, so happy belated birthday. We have one individualized cake for you to celebrate your birthday, and that's the end of that announcement.
Happy birthday, Vice Chair.
Thank you.
And meeting adjourned.
Join us in the back. We have refreshments for you in celebration of Haitian Heritage Month. Please pick up a Haitian Heritage flag as well.
My Cash App is.
Oh, no, we're not doing that on record. Meeting adjourned.